Podcast City.
Get on it.
Podcast City.
Get on it.
Oh yeah, we are on it. Make no mistakes about it. Put the children and young kids with the babysitter in the backyard, because this conversation's for grown folks. We got a serious problem in this country. Okay, more dangerous than COVID, more dangerous than a Chinese missile, more dangerous than any Muslim terrorist cell, more dangerous than Vladimir Putin, and more dangerous than that whack job in North Korea, Kim Jong-il. And he killed his uncle by dropping him in acid. The most dangerous problem to this country right now is our divide. We are divided about many things, but our racial divide is killing us. And make no mistake about it, I have told you once, if I haven't told you 100 times, this country is in more danger from rotting from its core due to hate and racism than it is any Chinese, Russian, North Korean, or missile from Al-Qaeda. Believe me when I tell you that. Just look at the defense spending numbers. Just look at our production capabilities. China and Russia can't even feed an army. The last time the Russians were a threat to us, they broke into 11 different republics. You remember Red Dawn and Ivan Drago and Hunt for Red October and all that hype? Who was the bad guy in every movie? The Russians. We were sold it. Ronald Reagan sold us, and we believed it. They couldn't feed an army, they couldn't fix their tanks, and they couldn't even fight a united war because they're about to split into 11 different republics who hate one another today. Believe me, our biggest problem is in the mirror. And it is the hate that divides us. And we're divided by geography. We're divided by how we live, urban or rural. We are divided by politics. We are divided by Republicans and Democrats. We are divided by a president. We are divided over many, many things. The right to bear arms, the right to life, okay? But, okay, the racial divide is something that must be addressed. And I'm concerned because I watched the news all day today. And the last time we were here, it was 80% social justice, okay? And today, it was 20% because COVID and Putin are getting more attention than the movements that are going on. I want to introduce my good friend, my brother from another mother, my man Peter Sylvia in the building. He has a very special guest to announce that is with us on audio live from Cambridge, Massachusetts. A great New Bedford football player in his day. Peter, why don't you introduce your friend Paulo?
Yes, I want to introduce my good friend, Paulo S. Paris, from the great city of New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Whalers.
From where my grandfather was born. We actually found out just recently through Ancestry DNA that not only were we friends all our lives through high school, through football, through partying, playing spades and all that stuff, we are actually related. We are actually cousins. And my cousin Paulo,
are they your Irish cousins that you got now?
He is my Cape Verdean cousins. He is one of my Cape Verdean cousins.
We all snooks.
And I'd like to introduce Paulo Paris.
Paulo, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you're doing and what's going on, man.
For the last 21 or 22 years, I've been working at Tufts University in their IT data department, main data center. Yeah. My background, I was obviously born in 1965. And the reason why I say that was the year I turned 5 years old is when a lot of this stuff in our area really exploded with the murder of my brother Peter's best friend while he was president, Lester Lima. And as far as our area is concerned, that's basically where a lot of this currently goes back to for me. I mean, my next door neighbor was, everyone knows him as Frankie Pocky Grace. And if you know about who he was, And there's a book out there about the Black Panthers. He was the head of the New England Black Panthers.
And the Black Panthers had a base of operations in New Bedford, correct, along with an NAACP office as
the head
well?
of New England. He was the head of the New England Black Panthers, not just New Bedford.
Sure.
Parky actually, if you know Easy Blair, the guy that we all know by his name now, Parky sent him over to my house at one point to stay when he first came to New Bedford. And this was one of the guys that was on that Woolworth's lunch counter. So I didn't know who he was. I just knew him as Easy, short dude, nice dude. He reminded me of that 40 years later. You know, it's crazy.
And therein lies the issue. One of the many issues that we're going to discuss today, Paulo and Peter, is this. There has been injustice far before Martin Luther King.
Yes.
The race riots in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the market riots in South Carolina. Okay. Yeah. Then you get Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown. And then you have the Watts riots. And then you have riots all over the city, all over the country for racial injustices. And then you get to your Rodney King. And then you get to your Eric, the gentleman who was shown, Eric Garner.
Yeah.
And then why is the George Floyd incident going to be the one to change things? Now you got to remember, I am the host of this show, so I have to play devil's advocate a bit, okay, to keep this thing rolling, okay, and keep it compelling and keep it interesting. Why is this movement going to be different, okay, and have different results than the others?
You know, I would like to say that technology has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And social
I agree.
media and all that, because technology made it what we're doing right now.
Sure.
You're opaque on my screen. We're having a conversation. Yeah. If I did not know who you were and we were having this conversation, I would not know if you were white or black.
Yeah.
So when technology first came out, a lot of these conversations on these social medias, people were just talking views and talking views back to each other. They weren't introducing themselves as, I'm a black person talking to you, or I'm from here talking to you. Sure. It was literally the conversation that kept increasing. And as each side got more and more information with validation, not just information, and people start to have the ability to actually go and research and find out if that person was lying to them. And then now we got video proof, you know.
Yeah.
A lot more people on both sides are starting to say they're becoming more human.
Sure. And hold on for 1 second, because Peter did a great job of talking about that. It was a different kind of video. It wasn't grainy like the Rodney King was, which is done by a home video camera. This was high def, very close. And not only did you see a man begging for his life, while a police officer was grinding on his neck, continuously trying to hurt him until he did ultimately kill him, you also saw people, a law enforcement officer, standing by watching nothing. As a multiracial crowd grew and were screaming at the police officer to knock it off. It was much more graphic, and it brought it home much better due to the quality and the technology, like you talked about, that are in the phones today.
Now, flash back to when America changed behind combat. Remember? Combat was about, before Vietnam, combat was like, wow, my father or my brother went over there. They fought a great battle. They're heroes.
Sure.
Vietnam came. You had the news showing people burning themselves, and that changed everybody.
Sure.
You know, it became real for some people, and it became not acceptable because they're actually seeing it.
They're seeing it. And Warren TV is bad.
Mr. Floyd, the tipping point for Mr. Floyd with me wasn't the knee on the neck. It was the hands in the pocket, the smirk on the face looking back at the people videotaping him, as if, you know what, even if you're watching me, you can't do nothing about it. And that, I think, touched a nerve with a lot of humans who look past color.
Sure.
You know,
there's a lot of white friends I know who who were in law enforcement or have family or friends in law enforcement, who were Trump fans, who were as disgusted as I was, and I felt something shaking under my feet, and that would have been it. Now, Peter, go ahead.
At no time in my training and my 3 academy classes and my training every single year in defensive tactics and in service training did we ever teach any officer to put his knees on a person's neck. Not one time. And it was appalling to me to watch. And it's even appalling to me for when we have police officers that are defending this.
Yeah. What was appalling to me was the continued grind to inflict more injury. As you can see, you pointed that out to me. What you said to Smirk, but what's most appalling to me is, okay, let me tell you something. Cops, firemen, politicians, janitors, custodians, teachers, IT guys, there's a bad element in all of that.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And with the life that police officers live and the type of pressure they're on, let's face it, when you look at quality of life categories, it's not very high. High suicide, high drug, high alcohol, high divorce. We know that, okay? We know all that. What bothered me was when the 4 other cops refused to get involved because of that thin blue line. Therein lies the problem. To have 4 other human beings, four other trained police officers, 4 other people in charge of public safety, all within 10 feet of this incident, and for none of them to do something, okay, really spoke to the systemic issues that plague a lot of our police departments. That's what bothered me. And I don't think we'd be having this discussion today if one of those police officers would have said, enough is enough. Get off his fucking neck. You're trying to fucking kill him. Stop it now. And isn't that what that oath is supposed to be about?
It is.
To protect and serve? Go ahead.
It is, but also you have a chain of command.
Sure.
There's always a chain of command. The first officer on usually takes control of the situation. Yeah. Now, the superior officer comes in and assumes control after the initial officer gives him the rundown and stuff. Yeah. That's what happened in this case. You know, he was a veteran of the police force. The other 3, I believe, were not rookies, but one was a rookie. Been on the job 4 days. Yeah. 4 days.
And I can empathize with him a little bit.
Listen, I know that none of those guys got up that morning and said, "This is what's going to happen today."
Sure. Yeah.
What they did is they followed the chain of command, and that's wrong, because if in our oath we're supposed to adhere to all the laws, and if somebody is in trouble, we're supposed to help them no matter what. You know, we're supposed to help them no matter what. And if that officer was doing something wrong to harm or to injure that suspect, those other guys should have, but they didn't. They should have intervened.
Paulo, go ahead.
From my military experience, you have points of intervention, we'll call them. You know, when is the right time to reproach a situation and speak?
De-escalate.
You know, like even within your family, let's say in your family, there's an argument. You know, your parents don't yell at, you know, in a good family, the parents don't yell at each other in front of the children. When they get in private, then they say, hey,
yeah.
That happened.
Well, they think they're in private, but we can still hear them anyway.
In most situations, same thing with sports teams and same thing with sororities and fraternities. There's this rule of what you don't do in the face of the public and what you do, you know, what is said behind closed doors. So my thinking on some of them rookies who weren't comfortable with it, I was looking at a couple of their faces and I'm thinking, like, which one of them in their head is saying, you know, before, you know, all this, it got to the point where he expired, you know, they're saying, when we get back, I really need to talk to this guy about this because I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yes. But
the situation in Atlanta, the situation in Atlanta is similar to it, you know. like the guy that's originally from Boston,
Yeah.
that one cop that came to the guys helping Atlanta. I'm pretty sure you had one of them like that, and then you had the other one was like, there's multiple reasons that why they didn't intervene, but that's inside the blue line. Intervene.
Yes.
And then
Absolutely.
will never intervene because they come from generations of this is how it works. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
You follow the lead, like people say.
It's a frat boy hazing type mentality that has to go, okay? It is institutionalized in every law enforcement body throughout, okay? Especially at the local levels, okay? There is no place for it. There is no place for that type of jocularity. There is no place for that type of ignorance, okay? They are not a private body member or group. They are paid by the taxpayers of the community that they protect, okay? And that should be their responsibility, not to their brother, right or wrong, and not when it comes to stuff this egregious. We're not talking about banging somebody's head on the trunk a little too hard.
Yeah.
We're not talking about cuffing somebody a little too hard.
Exactly.
We're not talking about chasing them down because they run and getting on top of them and, maybe rubbing their face in the dirt a little bit. And let's just talk about the realities of it, okay? We're talking about a sustained attack publicly in front of a biracial audience that was filming them, okay, while 4 other officers stood by and watched. And until the issue of the blue line is addressed, okay, then we're going to continue to have these problems. Now, in my notes, I have, okay, how do we address the blue line? And I'm going to ask you, Paulo, and you, Peter. Is it upper management in the police department that has to set the tone? Or is it grassroots? Do you start from the bottom with the recruits? Is it recruiting different types of people to be, right, in the police department? Or does it come from the rank and file? Now, here's my problem with bringing in new recruits and starting from the bottom. It usually takes 20 years to over 10 years, 15 years to really get to the highest levels of law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
Do we have that time to wait? Can we wait 10 or 15 years for a
I'm going to tell you what happened to me when I first got to my first duty station in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yeah.
I arrived the week after a major urinalysis piss test.
Yeah.
Okay. My timing could not have been no more perfect. Okay. They had a new commander. His name was we used to call him we used to call him the Dragon. When the dragon snaps his tail, everything moves. The day I got there, they had a 42% bust. In other words, 42% of my unit came up positive on a urinalysis.
Oh, boy. So
we had a lot of guys that I was saying hello to, and their rank was equal to mine. But 2 weeks before I got there, their ranks were way up there.
Yeah.
In other words, they all got busted down.
Yeah.
They all got busted down, and from that point forward, it was a clean slate.
Yeah.
So now I was equal to the person with me. It was a matter of, I don't care how much experience he had. Yeah. It was me and him.
Sure.
So I literally got promoted up, and as I got promoted up, the guy getting promoted back with me was being promoted for a second time to those ranks.
Yeah.
Sure. But the atmosphere of the Dragon that he brought in by cleaning house, reestablishing and laying down laws that you're not going to break, that's the internal part, and giving opportunities to new people. You break up all the old boy systems by one clean swoop.
Which they did in New York by taking those special narcotics teams and the two crash force and by reassigning them.
The one town in New Jersey that got redone totally,
Sure.
And now they have more things. Well, the thing is, if you go in and clean house, and this time around, instead of it being 15% or 5% or 3% minority, now all of a sudden you got 30% of each, 20%, 15%,
sure.
20% Hispanic, 20% Asian,
Yep.
20%, African American, because
But-
the hierarchy
yeah, okay.
has been established from the regime. You notice when you go in there, everything is, this is the way we've been doing it. This is the way we've been doing it.
Have
But when
so,
you
so
see how
all
you
right.
clean-
Let me ask you a question. But we have cities with high-ranking police officers that are officers of color. Okay, why haven't they done something? There are organizations, black police officers for justice in L.A. County. There are some in Washington D.C. that I looked up today. Why haven't they done more? Or
We
is
have a
the ceiling
military
too
saying
much
for
for
that.
them? What?
We have a military saying for that.
Yeah.
You have to know who's putting butter on your bread.
Okay.
You know,
But that butter, but that butter may come back to spoil your reputation and fuck with your head for the rest of your life.
those are the people that choose their wallet over their thing, their reputation.
Most of the times, like here in the city of Fall River,
Yeah.
the Fall River chief has people in the city council and the mayor that's his boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to adhere to what and if the police chief comes and says, hey, I want this stuff, this and this changed, and if the city council votes not to change it, or the mayor decides he does not want to change it, it
Yeah.
doesn't get changed.
Well, there are certain things. We do have contract chiefs in Fall River, which ultimately the mayor decides on. The city council has to ratify. Policy stuff like that, I'm not sure. I'm going to look into that at another time and place for sure. But one thing I do know, and a friend told me this today, and this made me really, really think, Paulo and Peter, it takes longer to be a hairdresser, like 2.5 some odd years,
Yeah.
than it takes to be a certified police officer, which takes about 6 months.
Listen,
I mean, is
I
that
was-
ass backwards or what? And time out. State regulated.
yeah.
State regulates the hairdressers and what they got to do, and what the police. How can you make sense of this, Peter?
I can't say anything about that. Is that only thing I can say is that they want the police on the street right away to get life experience instead of job experience. You know, they want the police on the street as fast as they can get them.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people retire. A lot of people leave the job because of those stresses.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say, honestly, like I believe, I told you before,
Yeah.
I believe that most police officers get on the police force to do good.
Sure.
Yeah.
To do good.
Yeah.
To
But
do
how many of them finish that way?
Yes, no.
no. Listen, there's some people that go to the job and they finish and they're ashamed of their career. But I know people that have done their job with
Without question. Yeah.
with honor.
Yeah.
And with I just think that when we're talking about the police departments and defunding the police and a lot
Sure.
of different things that happen with the police, it's some of these officers, behind that blue line and their chain of command,
Yeah.
and they're behind. They're actually got their hands tied behind their backs. Honestly,
Well,
Go ahead.
not to use it. Well, we're talking race, so let me bring this to your attention. You know, the overseer in slavery times was not a rich person. The overseer's job was to enforce the policy of the landowner.
Sure.
His job was to police the policies of the landowner.
Sure.
right?
Didn't do his job, he was replaceable. So I think the influence on some police departments
Okay.
is based on who is enforcing the policies and how they're enforced and why they want them policies.
Sure.
You know, like Pete said, I mean, I know a lot of good cops that are Caucasian.
So do I.
They're like good people,
So
man.
so do I. There's more good ones than the bad ones. But what happens, the bad ones, okay, need to be rooted out from within.
Yeah, in the
Because
military,
even though they're disgusted by him, there is the compelled thing. Do I do the right thing or do I walk that blue line? Are people gonna have my back if I'm in a jam? I mean, look at Serpico. Stop. One of the great movies of all times. One of the first films to talk about the blue line. And we're talking about Italians judging one another. It wasn't about black and white. Look what they did. Look at what they did to him. That movie won an Academy Award. And we're still doing that. We're people of conscience because they want to keep the check coming, because the tuition bills keep coming, and the car payments keep coming, and the mortgages keep coming. Okay,
that's influencing the cops too. Is what are their expectations based on how they need to gain their income? You know, like up here in Cambridge, I know some cops that are, I call them, they do them details. These are detail millionaires.
Oh yeah.
You know? There's cops around here. When you read about Fall River,
the top 100 earners, the majority of them are police officers.
Yeah, and they're making over $100,000 a year.
And
as a police officer,
did they corrupt a good cop and turn him into a bad one based on finance? Did they corrupt a good cop, turn him into a bad one based on the duty that he performed, where he was assigned to? You know, what turns these cops into all that anger? Same thing we deal with PTSD in the military. Like in the military, I mean, is a medic going to turn around and become a bad person? No, it's more than likely going to be an infantryman, armorman, artilleryman, you know, somebody in a high stress part of the job, you know, unless of course that medic is.
We know what the herd mentality and the alpha mentality can do to young, impressionable people. We see it. We see it in high school football locker rooms all over the country, in basketball locker rooms. We see it in professional locker rooms.
Yes, on all levels.
We see it in the water cooler. Okay, you know, I don't think we have time to change this from the grassroots system. I think we need to make sure that the people who are promoted, okay, are going to be 21st century police. When I say that, the smash and grabs, the kicking the door ins, the no-knock warrants at 4 o'clock in the morning. There's only a handful of criminals, you know, or with the Comparative Foundation that need that type of attention. When you talk about 21st century policing, like the New York police chief, you talk about data, you talk about analysis, you talk about surveillance, you talk about information, you talk about social media, you talk about all of that, okay? Wiretaps and video surveillance and business cameras that catch crimes. That is the wave.
Well, you said herd mentality. How many cops do you think commit brutality just to fit in with their friends, with the other cops?
Well, I mean, but if you study the Rampart division from L.A. like I did, I mean, they were doing stuff such as, you know, kidnapping gangbangers from one neighborhood and beating them to an inch of their life and dropping them off in their enemy's neighborhood. And that was commonplace. If you look at the corruption in the New York Police Department, okay, and don't get me wrong, they were the Fort Apache of the Bronx. There's a movie about it. Ronald Reagan got out of his limo and hopped back in because it was so scary. You know, I feel bad that we have to put these police officers in these type of situations. Some of them with less formal training and less time spent training, 3 times as less than what it takes to be a hairdresser. So maybe the answer is more training. And I've been saying this for all 4 shows, and I'm going to say it again. To be a police officer, you should have some type of community service background, teaching, coaching, social work, something like that you learn how to communicate with everybody.
Sports coaches, they would do coaching on the side.
Yeah.
You know, PO PAL leagues, police athletic leagues. Yeah. You know, and some of them were working with Cub Scouts and all that stuff.
Maybe it's time to bring the PAL back because it's defunct in Fall River. Maybe that's a great point.
We need to have more community organizers. We need people to start organizing and to police ourselves. I mean, you have the DAs of some departments. DAs of departments, they're overlooking the police. They are the police. Yeah. They are the police. So how are you going to have How you gonna have the DA's office overlooking the police who they work with on a daily basis?
Peter, I'm going through that right now, cuz.
You know what I mean?
I shake.
You know what I mean?
I shake my head.
This guy in Milwaukee, he was written up 6 times for offenses like this.
No.
Indianapolis, you mean?
I think it was like 17 times.
Yes.
The guy with me on the neck. Yeah, the guy was like
the one with George Floyd.
Yeah, God, if that happened to me in the military, I'd been gone.
Now, hold on a second.
Accountability.
I gotta flip this to keep this moving because we spent an awful lot of time on this topic, okay?
Right.
And we got episodes for days, Paulo. We're gonna make you part of this family. But let me play devil's advocate right now.
Yeah.
Let me turn the heat onto the black community right now and Black Lives Matter. You probably know where I'm going with it. On Father's Day in the great city of Chicago, the city with broad shoulders, but also a history of violence, from Al Capone and Bugs Moran to the Vice Lords and the Black P. Stones and all of it, okay? 70 young African Americans shot on Father's Day weekend. God knows how many killed, but a toddler was killed by an errant bullet.
Yeah.
What responsibility does Black Lives have, if any, in addressing what is going on in their own backyards with black on black crime? Talk to me, man. This is a tough one.
All right. Now, okay, so I'll give you a simile to this.
Okay.
It's like the pro-life people.
Yeah.
They only pro-life for them is just till the baby's born. After that, they don't care.
I get it. How can you be pro-life and with the death penalty? You know what I mean? We see that conundrum through
You see what I'm saying?
services the whole time.
Supposedly you're a Christian. Supposedly you're for every life, but you're really not.
Okay.
You know.
But you know what my father always said, and when he coached people and young men, make sure your backyard. Charity starts with your backyard.
Yeah.
Your house. So make sure your house is cleaned up before you want to tell somebody or try to make sure somebody else is as well.
Can I throw something else at you? I mean, me and Pete talk about this a lot. I'm always throwing this at him.
Oh.
I'm like, you remember the Willie Lynch letter, right?
Go ahead.
It's so funny because you opened the show and you were talking about the United States, everything that's wrong with the United States.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, wow, he's talking about the Willie Lynch letter, but he's not talking about as reference to Black Americans and slaves. He's literally talking about it socioeconomic.
Without question. That is one of my grounding this is one of my grounding differences that I have with the Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. I know one thing. 4 poor kids from Fall River from a bad neighborhood, if they get pulled over in Somerset, Massachusetts, or they get pulled over in Swansea, they're going to get treated out of the car, get on the ground, where's the drugs, where's the guns, just like 4 kids from Monty's Park are going to get treated if they get pulled over in Rochester.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a drug-addicted young man growing up without any form of education in his household, whose father's a drug, whose mother is an addict, okay, whose sister dropped out in the 8th grade and doesn't have the right clothes, the right sneakers to go to school, okay? I mean, you know, Fall River and New Bedford have very unique differences, but very unique similarities as well.
Well,
okay?
I'm gonna give you a great story. Great story.
Okay, give it to me.
This is 2020, so we're talking this weekend, like right around now. Back in 1984.
Yeah.
All right. I'm stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yeah.
One of my friends, his name was Dominic Medina.
Yeah.
He was a Puerto Rican from New York.
Yeah.
Another guy's name was it Helms or something like that?
Uh-oh.
He was a Jewish kid from New York. And then we had this my boy, love him to death, Crazy Connolly, the guy that actually owned the car.
Yeah.
He was from Southie here in Boston.
Oh boy.
So we were, back then, we didn't all want to pay for a flight back home.
Yeah. Of
so
course.
The guy from Southie goes, listen, y'all put gas in my car, we get home,
Yeah.
And so we were rotating driving.
Sure.
The two Massachusetts kids in the front.
Yeah.
But we stopped at the liquor store before we left base at the Class 6, and let's just say we had 4 cases of Budweiser in the car. So we're coming home 4th of July. And we're drinking, knocking down cans like crazy. We switch drivers, and we're in North Carolina, and we get pulled over by a statey.
Yeah.
You got a black, a Puerto Rican,
a Jew,
and an Irish guy.
Oh boy, sounds like a bad joke is coming.
Listen, it was Cleveland County, North Carolina. I think the exit number was 67.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
There's only 90 in South Carolina because I was down there for 3.5 years. I know my way around.
Every mile is an exit, right?
Yeah.
It must have been 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We didn't even know we were being chased. What happened was we were slowing. I was slowing down to pull over. No, Dominic was slowing down to pull over so we could switch drivers. Yeah. So we're pulling over to switch drivers, and all of a sudden there was lights behind us. Yeah. Naturally, Stady comes over. Dominic is drunk as hell, driving too, and license registration. Yeah. He said, "Have y'all been drinking?" And then he looked at us with all our crew cuts, and everything. He goes, "Y'all soldiers?" I said, "Yeah, we're coming from Fort Benning. We're heading home for the weekend." He goes, "It don't look like you're going home." He goes, "Can y'all step out the car?" He goes into the back of the car, underneath the seats, and he starts tossing out the crushed cans of beer, one at a time. Yeah. One at a time. And then he looked at us and said, "Listen, it's 4th of July weekend. I don't want to lock y'all up till Tuesday." Yeah. He said, "But we're going to get whatever, the guy to come, bounty guy, whatever, the bill bondsman." I'm the only one that had money in my pocket. I paid $1,700 cash.
Really? And you got out?
Because the only thing that got us out was we were soldiers. Yeah. And we had just got back from combat, recently. Yeah. And it was 4th of July weekend. Yeah. And he literally said, normally I'm not this friendly with y'all. And the state even said it. He goes, "We got us a funny looking black with curly hair." Yeah. We got us
I know that Yankee word was flying around because I've been down there long enough to know.
Everything. I was like, damn, did this guy use every racist term in the book?
Paul, let me get back to Chicago on Father's Day, okay? This is what the Trump people are going to throw at you. These are what the conservatives are going to throw at you. Why wasn't Black Lives Matter protested in Chicago on Father's Day weekend when 70 young African-American people were shot, many of them killed, including a toddler? Why weren't they? And anybody? What's your name?
My name's Reggie.
Reggie, what's up? Reggie,
we got Mr. Reggie Roach.
Reggie Roach in the building. Yeah. So somebody
from Wareham, Mass.
Somebody answer that question for me, please.
I'll tell you it right now.
What?
Trump's hate for Obama is so much hate that since the day he entered office, his target city has been Chicago.
Yeah, but Chicago had big problems. Chicago had big problems before Trump tried to do it.
He was born in Hawaii. His family was from Kansas City.
Sure. Well, according to Trump, he was born in Malaysia or some crazy shit like that.
He was born in Kenya.
Yeah, he's born in Kenya, yeah.
Oh,
but you see what I'm saying?
I'll throw up.
Anything that happens, the next day, they immediately find something in Chicago.
All right, Paul, but that's not good enough because Chicago's got a big-time problem.
Every city does. You cannot.
I know, but not like Chicago. Not these numbers.
Kidding me?
I looked at them. Listen, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Youngstown, Ohio, Flint, Michigan. I'll go right down the line for you. I studied this for 3.5 hours today. The numbers from Chicago jump off the page.
Okay, now all them other cities that you pointed out, right?
Yep.
All them other cities that you pointed out.
Yep.
Did you do percentage per capita?
Yes. Yeah. Well, places like Baton Rouge. But the reality is this. Hold on. The reality is
Chicago's got about
reality. I did. It's all about numbers and the mean. It's all about the average and the mean. That's how you get the truth of numbers. Okay.
No percentage. No.
Yes. The percentage is Paulo. The percentage. Hold on. The percentage is taken into the equation as well. Peter knows how I do the numbers. I collect them from 5 different places. We break them down. We do a Corona Chaos episode that's all about numbers the whole time, okay? But hold on. The problem is it's only happening in a few neighborhoods in Chicago. Inglewood, exactly. There's a few neighborhoods. The rest of Chicago is gentrified. Why can't we take care of this problem when the geographic area where the majority of the problem lies in could certainly be manageable for a city that has the type of wealth and money that Chicago has?
Can I ask you this? When you physically looked at the map of those areas, they weren't perfect squares or perfect triangles or perfect circles.
No, of course not. They're gang infested. They're not.
So you understand where I'm going with this? Those were gerrymandered neighborhoods.
Sure.
They were gerrymandered.
Gerrymandering.
Like I can tell you right now.
Hold on. I got to explain what gerrymandering is. Gerrymandering is when legislators get together to fix electoral districts to their advantage.
Yeah.
Okay. The Irish leadership wants to protect their Irish precincts. The Polish want to protect theirs in Chicago. The blacks and the Latinos want to create theirs too. So that is what gerrymandering. Former Speaker of the House, Tom Finneran in Massachusetts, who served with my father, went to jail for lying about gerrymandering. So it's a very serious problem. Go ahead.
Well, look at us. Look at your district right now.
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
Paulo, brother, all due respect, man. I feel where you're coming from, but I'm going to tell you this, man. I spent a little time in Chicago, not very much, but I got a lot of friends from there.
I got a lot of friends.
Chicago has a different problem than gerrymandering. Well, gerrymandering has nothing to do with the problem that
you think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if you're going down the line of socioeconomic, my man.
Hold on, Paul. Let him finish. Go ahead.
My man looks like it could be one of my cousins, man. So we might be getting ready to argue.
No,
just he looks like blood to me.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm just telling you, my man. Is I understand where you're coming from. If you're going down from a standpoint of socioeconomic imprisonment and the way in which black people and people of color have been kind of herded into these neighborhoods and put into a situation where there's no win outside of turning to crime, and put into a situation where violence is a regular thing.
Yeah.
And put into a situation where, outside of joining a gang, you really can't see the light of day. Right.
Sure.
So, those are the problems. I think gerrymandering, as you explained, Mike, is a totally different thing, and it has to do with voting.
He didn't let me get to my point on gerrymandering.
Go ahead, bro.
All right, got it.
All right. Now, as a kid growing up, my father was a chef. He used to cook down the Cape. He cooked for the Kennedys and all that stuff. And I used to always wonder where our legislators from my neighborhood came from, because I never seen them on a regular basis. Have you seen the
Sure.
Bedford, my neighborhood?
Yeah.
Stockton, Cambridge.
Excuse me?
That my district in New Bedford ends in Cambridge.
Sure. Farm and New Bedford should be together as a congressional unit.
Listen, New Bedford to Cambridge.
Sure. And our district goes all the way to Worcester.
Three districts come from Harvard Square.
Sure.
So you can have 3 guys in North Cambridge telling everybody in 3 parts of the state what to do and never be in those districts.
Sure.
That's the death of gerrymandering.
I believe so also.
Gerrymandering also sets up where neighborhoods are built, how they're built, and where people are herded into.
But let's talk about those black neighborhoods in Chicago again and Harlem and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can go on and on.
But this is what happened. These neighborhoods, at once upon a time in Detroit, Michigan, I watched a documentary. They said this great activist lived here. This great, one of the first CEOs from Ford lived here. Why are the black people moving from their original neighborhoods? Are they overwhelmed? Are they shunned?
No opportunity there.
Well, no, but they had made it. We're talking about Sugar Hill in Harlem. Okay,
exactly.
Sugar Hill in Harlem was the wealthiest of the wealthy. The black culture. It was iconic. They made a movie about it. Okay, but people left there as well.
Because who made the
Okay.
change? The person that made the changes, where was he actually from? You see what I'm saying about gerrymandering? The person making the policy and telling the police to do the policing, where is he actually from?
I don't know what happened. I don't know what really happened in Chicago, what made the people leave Chicago, but they left somewhere before they came to Chicago. They left the South. They left the South
For opportunity.
For opportunity in Chicago. When they got there, they had an opportunity. They worked hard. They were hard family workers. They had complete families back then and stuff. And then all of a sudden, our grandparents started passing away and dying, and the younger kids that may not have gone to college, may not have had a good education, may not have. Now they have to take over the house.
Sure.
Now they have to take over the house.
Grandmothers. You want to talk about the rock of some of the communities, the work the grandmothers do.
You said what happened?
What?
Fall River, New Bedford. I can give you the answers to that right now. During my day, Morse's Drill. Where did that job go to?
Sure. I mean, listen.
Jobs moved back down south.
Yeah, NAFTA killed the manufacturing here.
Brother, I can
You know
tell
what
you
I'm
what
saying?
happened in Chicago because that was the original.
Yeah,
question.
absolutely.
sure.
Tell me.
What happened in Chicago? Why is Black Lives Matters not in Chicago
Yeah.
trying to deal with the problem
Yeah.
of quote unquote black on black violence in Chicago? What happened in Chicago was what happened to almost every city in the United States. Crack cocaine happened to Chicago.
Sure.
Right? So it changed the dynamic there. Even before that, there was a drug problem there because there was a lack of opportunity with regard to drugs.
The crack changed it to automatic weapons. It came to too much
changed
money.
everything.
People were getting robbed more. You know, your professional criminals developed at a record rate. I watch Vlad TV a lot, and it deals with some of the best social commentaries around it. Hold on one second. Okay, hold on one second. With crack came 5 times the money, and the weapons became automatic, and they had enough money to buy the automatic. Before then, gangs were killing each other with 6-shooters. After crack, they were killing them with Uzis.
You know the reason why? Because, like you've been in Chicago, Paulo. How far is the Indiana state line from Chicago?
Yeah.
Right?
Gunmen,
And they go right over the border and buy boatloads of guns. Guns
before that, guns were brought into the cities.
Right. Yeah. Guns were brought into the city.
I'm not a conspircy theorist.
Right.
Right. But I can, just like everybody else, I can find myself going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But the rabbit hole is not easy. No, it's not hard to find.
The
when you
one
start looking at
conspiracy that I
guns.
believe in is for the Sandinista Contra War, that they flooded Southern California with massive amounts of cocaine in a black ops mission by the CIA. So Snowfall on FX tells a great story about it. If you do your history, and the reason why it did not get, hold on, the reason why you did not get the attention that it was supposed to was because it was broke by what was considered a not major newspaper in the San Jose Mercury.
That's
the
right,
San
and
Jose
one man.
Mercury and one man, okay? And he ended up, it took that guy years to get a Pulitzer. But just like the thin blue line with the police, the thin typed line by journalists stubbed their noses at this newspaper and stubbed their noses at him and said this can't be true. But it was. And the ability to cook it, because it was so cheap and make a mistake with the kilo, I believe they'll get kilos for $3,000 a pop.
Yeah.
Okay? A kilo today is $50,000, $40,000. What?
Listen, you just kept saying that all of you said the same thing. Like during the 70s, during civil rights and all that stuff, the gangs back then literally faced each other the way athletes face each other.
Sure.
There was no collateral damage back then.
Sure.
They literally lined up and faced each other, neighborhood to neighborhood.
Sure.
It did not bleed over into families.
I remember when Fall River was like that. And I'm sure you remember when
everybody had their rules. You had rules of engagement back then. You literally had to have permission to kick another guy in another gang behind from your leader in your gang. You didn't just go over there and do it. Yeah. But the difference in the 80s and 90s was what you said, volume. Yeah. Volume made everybody have access.
Sure.
It was supply and demand. It was oversupply and then more than enough demand. It was just
take a look at the supply. Take a look at how crack cocaine got to Chicago in the first place from LA.
Exactly.
That was the birth of it.
It
went from LA to all the other main cities through there.
You fast forward 35, 40 years,
Hey, listen.
and then you have that ingrained
I'm
in that society, in those communities in Southside Chicago. You know, I've been there, I walked them streets.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, it's all that they have, right?
Sure.
And there's not a lot of opportunity. There's more opportunity than there was, especially in the 80s.
I lived in California for 10 years of my life. I lived in some of the worst neighborhoods you can ever live in. I can tell you right now, as a college student, the mere fact of seeing cocaine, I've never seen it more than affluent household.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've never seen not in the poor household. I never seen. Maybe there were some originally there.
Well, the Rockefeller drug laws will tell you all you need to know about cocaine and how it was perceived by the people in power. Because a white boy would get charged if he had $20,000 of powder, he was probably going to do 2-3 years. The black kid's got $280 worth of rock. He's going to do 15 years. Okay,
absolutely.
Cocaine was considered a rich elite drug until the rock came in, the $10 rock. Now it goes from soft drugs to hard drugs. Now it comes from taking every fucking dime in your pocket and smoking crack to doing a few lines and dancing with your girl and their friends in a nightclub. There is a huge difference in the ability to cook the coke and get the crack cocaine into pieces where now it's 10 times more valuable than that $100 gram that you're selling them.
And more potent.
What?
Potent. It's like my man just said, potent. We said it at the same time.
Potency is like,
I mean,
yo. Now, when I was in Germany, I did a couple of undercover stuff, you know, because I fit the mold and the make.
Get out of here, Paulo. Did you really?
Look at me, right? Look at this.
And any kid grown up in Fall River, Bedford, Wareham would be good undercover.
Yeah, exactly. Learn a couple of Arabic words, you can do a lot.
Yeah,
Trust
I
me.
hear you.
So, the Turks there was dealing hashish like crazy.
Yeah.
It started filtering into the military in the 80s before crack came and all that stuff.
Cannabis is very difficult to smuggle. We're seeing that with 9/11, and it's not coming from Mexico anymore. It's coming from Northern California. All right, we're going to switch this up a little bit, okay? One thing I want to say in doing this, the IRA, the world's probably most feared and respected terrorist organization. When heroin was devouring Dublin and Belfast and Derry, you know what they started doing? They started executing drug dealers. Just for the record, we're gonna move on here, okay? We're gonna go.
Way to end
But they can do that because it was all the same color there.
Yeah,
they can do that. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't be happening here. You don't think that anybody's gonna want that to happen here?
No, but
because what organization would be in the United States would be similar to that of the IRA in Ireland? None.
I would say the Black Panthers.
No way.
Why?
No way.
They weren't violent.
And the Black Panthers weren't as big as the IRA.
The IRA didn't start off being violent. And let me tell you something. One can argue that religion, but let me tell you something. More blood's been spilt over religion than race.
Right. But the IRA had something that the Black Panthers never had.
What?
Finances.
From America.
Limited amount of money to finance.
They didn't always have money until the money started coming in from America and other revolutionary type places like Libya and other places where they were getting their money. Okay, let's move on. Anybody got a problem with the Jesus image as we know it? Sean King is an activist, says that the statue of Jesus is the prime example of white supremacy. We all know that Jesus probably wasn't white. He was Middle Eastern. They're not white. They don't have blonde hair, blue eyes, or whatever it is. What are we going to do about this?
Listen.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna speak for myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it probably from all these my friends here and my cousin and stuff like that. We never had a white Jesus in our household.
But none of my black friends did either.
We never had a white Jesus in our household.
Hey,
none of my friends. I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm going to disagree because there's a white Jesus right in my mother's room. You know, I always seen her just get the open heart with the thorns around the heart right there. It's right in that room. And she was all about Jesus, let me tell you. I don't think she ever considered or cared what color Jesus was.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
But I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah,
I got a problem with everybody that has this big problem with statues and symbols and all this thing. My issue is systemic racism.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. I think we need to tackle that first. I couldn't give less of a damn about these statues that are up and these statues that have been up. I understand the problems with these statues. I understand the problem of having a traitorous Confederate soldier in front of a federal building. That just doesn't seem to mesh, right? And why is it still there?
You're not chirping on that?
The problem with Teddy Roosevelt on a horse being escorted by a slave and a Native American. Yeah. I got a problem with that image.
Sure. I got a problem with Columbus.
It's not the big problem.
I got a problem with Columbus.
The problem with Columbus
was a bad guy.
He was a murderer.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's problems with these guys, but I think we need to stay in the now. Who cares about these things?
Mr. Roach, cuz.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, Paulo, come on, Paulo.
Very good. You're on a very good point right now. All right. And Peter alluded to it, and Mike actually alluded to it too, with the whole white Jesus thing and all that. Here's the problem. We all know that the weakness in society is education, but we keep associating that weakness in society of education of it just being with the poor. What we're not associating it with is a lot of my white friends that I work with around the world, I constantly hear them say, I didn't know that. Yeah. You know why they didn't know that? They weren't told that. They weren't proved that.
They weren't taught that.
How many white people read these black books? Like, you know, can you picture a white person being taught Know Thyself by Dr. Naeem Akbar? Could you picture that?
No.
You know,
depends how evolved. Depends how evolved the parents were.
No, not about evolved. It doesn't have to be evolved. You're not hearing me.
Evolved, I said.
They're being taught. White people are taught that we only have to learn your way of life. You don't have to learn our way of life.
Okay. So
history, her story, my story, no story.
We're leaking into this. Okay, we talked about the statues. What? Where do we go with this? Blah 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 blah. How do the business people lose? Education. How do we fix it? Are we teaching history inaccurately?
Well,
I remember my parents laughing at me about the Pilgrims landing on Plymouth Rock, but I didn't get it. Okay, we're told lies about Santa Claus when we should be told that it's their parents' hard-earned money that drop them off, that drop them gifts off. We're told lies about Columbus landing in America when he did not. It goes on and on and on again. Do we need to start teaching history in a broader, more accurate manner? Why don't we have a statue with women empowerment today? And the LGBTQ community having big-time corporate power and big-time purchasing power behind them. And that movement for social justice. Kathy Williams, you know what her story was? She was a black woman who dressed like a guy, fooled like 10 commanders in a row, and fought her ass off for the Union against the Confederacy.
Yep.
Now, how come more people don't know about her?
She was original spy.
What?
She was the original spy for the Union Army.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Think about this honestly. You know, everybody, you know, we're taught that all these white men discovered America. How can you discover something where people already are?
Sure.
And living.
Absolutely.
So that mentality, from that point right there on, everything is false.
Sure.
Imagine being that Native American. You didn't discover me. Yeah. Not only did you not discover me, but you took over my land without even asking me.
Yeah, sure.
The whole entire Caucasian people, they B&E'd America. They broke and entered. They stepped on.
They were colonists, just like the Portuguese were.
Now, imagine if I stepped on
your they were colonists, just like the Spaniards and the English. The sun never set. The sun never set on the British Empire. They were colonists, and with colonists, fortunately, came enslaving the indigenous population of the land that you took over. And that was modus operandi for a long time. Okay? but taking a statue down of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who led us against a legitimate enemy in Adolf Hitler, a legitimate racist scumbag, a legitimate threat. And contrary to your point about Vietnam, okay, Americans, instead of being pensive and protesting in World War II, they were lined up around the corner at the Marines, at the Army, trying to get involved because the cause was righteous. Just like after 9/11, a huge influx of people going in because the cause was righteous. In Vietnam, it was not a righteous cause, so you didn't have that type of stuff. When my Uncle Dennis returned to Fall River, because in Fall River in Vietnam, people really fight the wars. They don't fight them in Brookline. They don't fight them in Weston. They don't fight them in Lexington. They fight them in poor industrial cities. That's where they come from. Watch the Band of Brothers. First generation Jew, first generation Guinea, first generation Wop, first generation Polak. Poor kids from poor cities and poor towns and rural towns fight the wars.
Right. And Native Americans for reservations, like the Windtalkers.
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, the thing I wanted to talk about is like Mike and Paulo. You was in the service. I don't know if Reggie was in the service. You went to school and everything. But the thing is that Mike was talking earlier. What do we do about Chicago? Aren't those American cities? Isn't that an American city? Isn't that American? Now, when we fight wars, we fight it together, don't we?
Sure.
Why should it be just the black man's fault or the black man's problem that the things that happen in Chicago? No, we're Americans. It's our problem.
Sure.
It's America's problem.
Sure.
Is it murdering black men in the street a righteous cause?
No.
Why not get with us?
Yeah,
why not?
No.
Well, let's attack this righteous cause because they know it is. When we saw this guy for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we nailed on his neck. I think that it should be enough to bring us together and say this is a righteous cause. This is a righteous cause, and I think that it did to a certain degree. But the people that buck against it, and the people that want to, cite this guy's, criminal history,
sure,
or talk about the criminal history of the other people that were, unarmed and murdered by the police, if that's all they can focus on, and they can't focus on this righteous cause, we got so much work to do that it's daunting, right? Just to even think about it.
That's what I feel.
So
how oxymoronic was that point you just made?
What? Tell me why it's an oxymoron. Tell me why.
How oxymoronic?
All right.
The minute this black man was killed, they went and looked up his background.
Absolutely
crazy.
Well,
I didn't hear it for a couple of days afterwards.
I know.
That's what
they were looking
the
though.
first thing. Opposition research. Sure.
The oxymoronic point is it's okay to go into that brown skin background and find out what was wrong with his morals.
Yeah, but
we can't go into Columbus' background. We can't go into Roosevelt's background, Bradford's background, Braddock's background, and all these white heroes. So because they're white, well, we can't talk about them.
All right, listen. Opposition research paid for by police unions around this country. I worked for the DNC for 4 years. Okay. Every lobbyist group, every special interest organization has opposition research. And whether that guy was white or black, okay, that criminal history is going to come to light, okay? We don't know. It could have been a person of color who has that standard in that union or in that interest group, who controls the opposition research, who says, okay, we have to protect our blue line, we have to protect our brotherhood, we need to do opposition research against this poor bastard who got killed. Okay? And for your information, it's not very difficult. It's called FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. Any young kid out of college working for a union or working for the Black Justice Movement down south, the Southern Poverty Center, or the white conservative Christians from Orange County in L.A., you're going to find this. It's not very difficult to get.
Listen, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
But they didn't see that at first. What they saw was a man kneeling on an African American man's neck, crying out for his mother, dying in front of us. That's what they saw. Whatever you see after that is irrelevant. Is irrelevant.
His criminal record is inconsequential because as a police officer, you're not trained to kill. You're trained. You're supposed to be
Are you?
protecting and servicing. You're trained
to protect
to
and serve.
apprehend. Right? You're supposed to be apprehending him, not
Okay.
murdering him. Every criminal. We're in the United States, so you're innocent until proven guilty.
Are you guilty till proven innocent? I would argue differently.
Unfortunately, right? So he had a criminal background.
And you know
That's-
something? When you go into court, believe it or not,
Yeah.
believe it or not, when you go into a court, the police officer is the one on trial because he has to prove his case to the court. The reason why he arrested this person and what was done. So you could say it both ways. You know,
It was
but
probably a righteous arrest.
When
right?
you're
Let's just
when
say
you're
that.
charged, you're on the front page of paper. When you're found innocent, you're on page 16. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. You know what I mean? And
But that cop also had a bad record too.
18 counts.
George Lloyd did not know
18
about that cop's
reports.
background either.
Should we make discipline reports available to the public within
Yes.
police organizations,
We put
law
pictures of
enforcement?
rapists.
Peter, let's hear from you on this. Hold on, let's get this from Peter. Paulo, you're next.
this is what I think. I think that we should have an organization or a council that's separated from the police departments that are policing the police, that are coming in and they're
Citizens Review Group.
Citizens Review Board or whatever you want to call it and stuff like that. That look at, okay, this guy has done has 17. What are you saying? 17?
18.
18 write-ups.
Prior.
Right, 18 prior write-ups, and if that's not systemic, what is?
Right. This man shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been on the force in the first place.
Mind you,
pretty
he
obvious.
should in the military. In the military, when you do something bad, they remove you from that unit and move you to another area because you're not good for that area.
Sure.
So when he got to complaint number 3 or 4, he should have been moved out of minority neighborhood and put.
Paulo, but the institution you're talking about, they bounce you around, right? They bounce cops around. There's danger in that. Look at the danger the Catholic Church did to people by bouncing pedophile priests around. Okay, you're diddling in Fall River, so we're going to send you to Minnesota. Okay, you're going after 5-year-old boys in Minnesota, so we're going to send you to St. Louis. And there's danger. That's dangerous.
It's like Catholic priests.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Listen, if we had some organization or whatever we call civil,
Yeah.
you know, if we had something like that, they would not overlook this. This would not be happening. If you get we got 3 strikes in California. You do any kind of crime, 3 strikes, you're out. If you're a cop, if you have 3 strikes, you're out.
Sure.
And
I got to ask you a question.
whatever
You have a
group you put
background in
together-
law enforcement. So my question is simply this, right? So I think I've seen things about this, but I'm not versed in it. How long does it take to become a police officer?
6 months. It
Yeah.
takes a hairdresser 2.5 years.
6 months. We're on 23 weeks.
It took me about 5 years to understand what I was doing at my job, right? So I was faking it until I made it for a long time.
Reggie, honestly, it's 6 months, but you're learning every day. Don't think that a person that gets out of the academy knows what he's doing when he gets on that street.
Weekends? You guys, they don't go on weekends, do they?
No, it's 5 days a week. Well, sometimes the state troopers they stay over, but it's 5 days a week. But the thing is that listen, you're going to be learning on the job most of the time. It's on the job training.
Who are you learning from? Somebody who's been around for a
Training
long-
officer, field training officer.
Yeah.
This guy that killed
That's
Floyd
like-
was a training officer.
That's
Training
that's
those guys.
crazy. That's
With 18
crazy.
counts.
I mean, this is what they're being trained to do. Where else
How
are
the
they being
fuck you
trained this
become a
way?
training officer when you have 18 fucking discipline reports?
Exactly.
That's
See,
That's-
there's a thin blue line.
Right.
That's out.
our actual checks with huge balances.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I got 4 questions for everybody. We got to wrap this up. We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes already. So we're going to start with you.
Paulo.
Go
Paulo,
ahead.
and everybody's going to answer the same question. Tell me the first move you would make to fix the social justice problem in this country. What is the first move you would make?
I would get rid of that rule to where these guys have carte blanche.
Okay, so it would start with police reform?
Yeah, that you have to because all cancers are from within.
Okay, how about you?
I mean, I don't want to give the same answer, but it's pretty clear that that's where you have to start, right? You have to start with the way that these guys are hired first, and then the way that they're trained.
Sure.
And you have to put the right people in charge of them. But if I want to give it a different answer, I think it has to do with education. You know, we talked a little bit about, I'm sure you guys have talked about this town of Wareham where we're from, me and Peter are from. I mean, what you have there is a very diverse community. What I've been shocked by is some of the people that I consider friends and really finding out what they're really about. Really,
I had an experience on Peter's Facebook about that today.
Yeah, you know, Peter knows me. I mean, that's probably the reason why I'm here. I go in on people on Facebook, and I keep everybody that's a Trump supporter that, you know, even has racist views. I keep them on my list. I don't block these people because I want to know what they have to say. So if I have to give it a different answer, it's education.
Sure. Peter?
I would say all of the above. With an exception, I would start with Donald Trump. That's the first one.
Okay.
He causes more division. He's caused more division in our country than than anybody I've known.
Purposely.
In my lifetime.
By
in
design.
my lifetime. My 55 years, I've never ever seen this much division. I seen the riots and stuff in Southie and stuff like that. I seen a lot of stuff growing up from 1965 until now. This has been the most division I've ever seen, and it's coming from the president himself.
Yeah,
I think systemic failing schools and failing neighborhoods, environments like Chicago and certain neighborhoods in New York and our big cities, where we have to give. My father was a Democratic state rep for a long time, and he talked about, you know, okay, so you see the mother, right? And you see that she's got sneakers on she probably shouldn't have. She's driving a car she probably shouldn't have, blah, blah, blah. So you want to take from them. But what about the kids? You're not taking from the mother's going to, she's grown. She's going to be able to fix this and find another way. But you're taking from the kids. We have to give our children the same opportunities in bad communities that we do. If we have to come up with some type of program where our best and brightest teachers and there are programs like their student loans forgiven, if I'm going into these communities for 2 or 3 years, then that's what we might have to do. But we have to completely change the finances. We don't need to be spending 200 times more than our biggest enemy on national defense. Okay? We need to spend it on education and teaching people the right way. And I think it starts with that. Give them the opportunity to be able to take care of themselves. Give them hope, so the drug dealer, okay, with the flash and the bling and all of that, isn't the picture of success. Maybe a scientist is. Maybe an engineer becomes it. Maybe a teacher. Maybe a social worker. Maybe somebody else.
That's happening.
What?
It's happening right now. So it's on a small scale, and it could be improved. There's people right now. I'll send you guys a video, but there's a movement right now to go down that route. But I think the people that can't be let off the hook is those affluent places that you talked about, Lexington, the 495 belt, those W towns with all the money.
Like
those people need education. They
need
to know. They need to understand that all of these people, regardless of the shade of your skin, we're the same. When you get to the core, we have the same hopes, the same dreams, the same ambitions that they have, and we need to
same
put
brain power.
Same brain power. We need to be put on that level.
Paulo, I'm coming at you right now. There is a world called Limousine Liberal, who create these limousine policies. A lot of them in Cambridge. A lot of them up your way. Deval Patrick was one of them. I voted for him every time. But the community he lived in did not maintain the federal law of having affordable housing in it.
Yeah.
But yet Fall River and New Bedford have 300 and 400 times the affordable housing. And he's trying to put more down our throat. No. You cannot put poor people. You cannot put poor people on top of poor people. I don't care if they're green, yellow, or come from Mars. It's a failed social recipe. Second question. If I say all lives matter, why do people with my track record and my mentoring and my coaching and my helping people of color my entire life and my families, why do they say I have a subtle racist twinge when I say all lives matter? Paulo, help me out with that.
Well, it's. I mean, if we look at it from a clean slate, all lives matter. That's the Bible, right? But you have to understand, just like I never got to the point with the statues. Growing up here in Massachusetts, I never understood what it was like until I went in the South. And some of the things like the Aunt Jemima thing, that was frivolous to me being from up north.
Yeah, sure.
When I got down there, it woke me up. And now, like you're saying with the All Lives Matter, that's like, let me equate it to something you can actually deal with. If your sister was raped by 5 guys, do you want to look at those guys walking the streets every day in your face? How do you feel when you see them, knowing that they got off and knowing that it was clear as day that they were guilty? Well, it's a slap in your face.
Great point.
When you see them raising kids and everybody praising them and voting them in office, or they become owners of companies and all that, but you're traumatized and you were never able to overcome it because the people that tortured you and oppressed you are now being elevated and given a clean slate in society. So that's what those statues mean. That's what all lives matter mean. That's how it affects the oppressed.
You know, it's a funny thing. I was just thinking about it. I don't remember one time where I grew up and people that ever ran towards the police. We always ran away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean, it's not fucked up. I'm just thinking about this shit.
I always want to come to all the guys are fast.
Well, you know, 4-1, time to run. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know, that's just a strange dynamic. I don't know why I brought that up. But am I subtly racist if I say all lives matter first?
Of course.
You're
of course,
ignorant.
it's dismissive.
I don't agree with you, fellas. I do not agree with you.
It's insulting.
Okay.
There's, you know, and I'm just going to bring it up because, I mean, it just encapsulation. There's a meme out there that I think Peter's seen. A lot of people have seen it. It just says, you know, it says, we said Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
We never said only Black Lives Matter. We know all lives matter.
Yeah.
We just need your help
to make sure
with the Black Lives Matter part, because Black lives are in danger. So that's what it is.
Yes.
We understand. Okay, it's a great notion. All lives matter. We get it. We know that. But until Black Lives Matter, all lives can matter because we're in the all.
You know,
we're in there, right? And we're being killed on TV, on video, being nailed on for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But that's not the only one. I was beat up by the cops when I was 19 years old. Right, you know, I was put in this position where I couldn't breathe, and it's an epidemic, and it's been going on for 400 years. Right? They don't want to hear that. They want to push these things to the side. Sure. It's offensive when somebody says that to me. It's offensive. I get it's a visceral anger that I get because they're proving to me that they don't understand, but more importantly, they just don't care.
I do understand, but I think that anything that divides us or has that type of tone where only Black Lives matter,
You're
I think
missing
it's
the
the lesson.
point. You're missing the point. That's not what we're saying.
Nobody
ever said only. That word only has never been in front of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
It's never been there.
Well,
And sometimes
It's not even implied.
Sometimes I kind of.
well, it is implied. It most
Sometimes
certainly is implied.
It's not.
I believe it that
If
it
you
is.
listen,
Sometimes
you're
I
paying
kinda
attention.
get it.
You
Sometimes-
understand
I'm paying
it's
attention. I started this podcast so we all pay attention. I pay attention every day.
not. Yeah, my man, but you're not understanding this one simple point.
Sure, because
Black lives are
maybe I have a
included in all
different opinion
lives.
than you do.
That's cool.
That's
Okay,
cool.
Black lives
this
are
is-
included in all lives.
simple
You're
as-
just going to tell
simple
me
as
that
this.
when I tell you Black Lives Matter?
simple
But the
as
conversation's healthy.
Yes, it's
Let's have
healthy.
it.
All right.
I agree.
All right. Cool. Go ahead.
The simple thing is that, you know, Jesus Christ said it himself. He said it himself. When his followers said, Jesus, why are you going after this one?
Yeah.
Why are you going after this one when you have all of us here? He said, just like I have 100 sheep. You guys are the sheep. I have 100 sheep. 99 of them are staying here. But that one wanders off. The reason why I go after that one is because that one is in danger. That's like Black lives. They're in danger in the United States. They've been in danger in the United States. And this is the reason why. When you say all lives matter, when you say all lives matter, of course, everybody knows all lives matter. But black lives at this moment in time and at this moment through our history have always been in danger.
I agree. Okay. I also agree that brown lives are in danger. I also agree that we slaughtered yellow lives after World War II. I mean, we go on and on with this. Like I said, I come from more from a socioeconomic, being a white boy from Florida. I come up from more of a socioeconomic level. I think I've stayed pretty consistent with that throughout these four episodes. That's the angle I come at it. But I don't think we should, because nobody's perfect. I do not think that we should be so quick to rush to judgment and label somebody a subtle racist if they do not have a problem. I don't wear an All Lives Matter shirt. I don't have a poster in my studio. Okay, I have to bring up difficult questions and dialogue. Okay, and I don't think that is an indictment enough to say that they are a racist. I think that's a very strong word. Just like I don't believe. Like I don't believe. Go ahead.
I gotta tell you something, man. I gotta tell you something real bad. Peter.
Yes, sir.
Scott Jenkins, my best friend since birth.
Right.
Grew up in the projects with us.
Right.
Scott Jenkins is half black and half white, but if you were to look straight at him, he's got green eyes and he's got a blonde.
I know Scott.
So do I.
Yeah. We played football on the same team at Buttonwood Park.
Yeah.
Now, to get from Buttonwood Park to below Monty's Park, you had to travel through Hawthorne Street, the richest neighborhood in Bedford. And every night, me and him walking home with just our football equipment on as 10, 11-year-olds. Well, we knew that the white kids in that neighborhood did not like seeing black kids in their neighborhood in that time. So we were always leery walking in the dark going home. This one night, we're walking down Hawthorne Street, and all of a sudden we hear, nigger, 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 nigger. We turn and we look back, and there must have been about 10 or 12 bikes chasing us. Now, Scott is pretty fast, a lot faster than me. They're chasing us, and they're catching up to us, and they're like, nigger, nigger, nigger. They turned and looked at Scott. They said, you white, you black. They were so freaking confused that I started cracking up laughing and fell down. And I was like, this is where we fight. But you see what I'm saying. Two people in the same socioeconomic environment, you know, growing up together as best friends.
Sure.
When we went to summer camps together, we went to Camp Clark down the Cape. I'll never forget.
Michael Donald ran Camp Clark. He was the
Camp Clark, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know the different cabins, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was the only black person in that camp that summer.
Sure.
So
I was the only white guy on the United States Youth Games team representing Boston when we went to down south to play. It's a little different. It's a lot different, but it's not fun being a minority anywhere.
Yeah. So we went to.
Let's say that.
Okay, I say it as simple as this.
What?
I say it as simple as this.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's equal across the board, would you step into my skin? Would you change places with me as a black man in the United States? Would you change if you could? I would. You know,
there's no
rather be black than certain nationalities that I am.
So that you could.
My mother wouldn't let me wear green on St. Patrick's Day. That's real talk.
I understand what you're saying, but. Yeah. In order to see real racism, and to see what's equal, and to see that all lives matter.
No. We say about real racism. Real racism. Okay, real racism was my friends getting called greenhorns by Irishmen and spit at and spit on. Okay,
well, that's what I've seen that.
I hear you. Now, do they have as tough as the black man? Absolutely not. But there's racism and this stuff. Look at this Stanford study. If you want to know the origin of racism, they put all these kids in different color shirts and empowered certain different colors. Pablo, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you really want to get down to the clinical end, it really doesn't have that. If you want to look at the Stanford study, probably the most accomplished analytical view on why we're taught to hate and how simple it can be as a colored T-shirt, okay? Because that's what it comes down to. You understand that. Paulo, are you familiar with what I'm talking about here, my brother?
Yeah. You said San Francisco studies. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very interesting.
My cousin Peter Fernandez, he was actually a professor over there when all these studies were going on.
Sure.
He's in Philippines right now, but you see him. He's on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
Peter Fernandez. He was a professor over there.
Hey, Mike, let me say one last thing about this All Lives Matter thing, right? Because, I think I might have misunderstood you. If I understand the question now, you were asking if saying All Lives Matter makes you racist, right?
No,
was that the question?
I just see my friends who maybe don't know enough.
Yeah.
And who never haven't been around enough. See, I've been around it.
Yeah.
I'm a white boy in a Big East locker room, okay? My father dropped me off at Dudley Station, was a state rep. Could have dropped me off at Shelbourne or Roxbury Y or Washington Park, but he didn't. He wanted me to feel it. So he dropped me off at Dudley Station. When he went to the State House, I went up Martin Luther King Boulevard 3 times a week, okay? People said I was the first white boy to have a ghetto pass in Roxbury. And these are guys from Made Men. These are guys from Franklin Hill Giants, Academy Homes. These guys are killers, okay? So you have an idea. Being the minority is no fun in this country. Being a first-generation immigrant is no fun in this country.
Well,
okay? And I'm going to let you come in 1 second.
Yeah.
I get it. The intellectual argument that the black man and woman make to me about all lives matter, I totally come to grip of it. But some people who might not be as educated, who might not be as refined, who I know in reality, okay, don't have a prejudiced bone in their body, but they have a problem with people having a problem with all lives matter. And I think if we're going to need those people on the fringe that saw George Young, and we're appalled, to move the meter. Because sadly today, every day before I do the show, I watch 3 different news channels. And I'm clicking. CNN is my number 1, okay? MSNBC is out to the left. Fox, we know, is Fox, okay? But the majority of the narrative today isn't about social justice or Joe Young or Black Lives Matter. It's about the coronavirus, and it's about Putin putting a bounty on U.S. soldiers. And I struggled to get some material. And that's the facts of it today. When you guys came in, CNN was on. CNN was on when you walked in. When you guys leave, CNN's going to be on. And I'm thinking, it's been 27 minutes since I heard anything about social justice. Where a week ago, me and you were talking about how fucking the Black Lives Matter movement and the social justice movement knocked fucking Corona off the headlines. But that's how fast it can switch.
The flavor.
Right. One thing I did read. Young, progressive, black men and women are running for public office at record numbers.
And they're
because
winning.
Of this.
And they're winning.
They're going to win in Kentucky. They're going to win in traditional red states. And that is a great sign of systematic change. Now, go ahead. Where you coming from?
Let's go back to those people that you were talking about, because you said we need to open the discussion, right?
Yeah.
It's important that they understand where people in the Black Lives Movement are coming from, right? I'm not a part of the movement. I support it, but I'm not a part of the movement. I'm not in the streets, right? But I support it. So I'm just going to tell you how black people, I'm going to speak for everyone right now, and I know that that's not a realistic thing, but I'm going to do it anyway, right? So every time somebody says all lives matter, what I hear, right, is I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about how you feel. I don't care what's happening in your community. I don't care about your family. I don't care that people like you are getting murdered in the streets on video, right, or not on video. I don't care that the people that are sworn to protect and serve you are the people that are doing this to you without cause, right? No matter how many times it happens, I still won't care, because all lives matter, right? What's happening is, we know, like I said, all lives matter, okay? It just seems like there's a certain amount of people that use that phrase, all lives matter. They don't fully understand that black people are included in those lives, right? Because it's happening in front of your face. Yet I'm going to tell you Black Lives Matter, because it doesn't seem that they do in the general, the grand scheme of things, that black lives don't seem to matter because we're being murdered in front of you, and you still want to come back at me with all lives matter. That's offensive. It's offensive for one reason. We understand all lives matter. Do you understand that Black Lives Matter? It doesn't seem to mesh, because no matter what we do over 400 years, and let's just talk about the last 30 years, time and time again it happens. And some of these people seem to think that it happens far away, right? I say this name all the time because I deserve that. This kid deserves to be remembered. DJ Henry.
Yeah.
DJDreamFund.org. Go to it, okay? Support this kid.
Yeah.
A promising athlete.
Upstate
Murdered
New York.
by
Yep.
police in New York. He's from across the street from me.
Yeah.
Okay, he's from across the street
Where
from me.
him?
I'm in Easton. I live in
Okay.
Easton now.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's from across the street.
Yeah.
Good kid.
I know. Yeah,
I didn't know him personally,
Football
but
player.
my people
Football
did.
player. He there was
Football
a
player.
incident leaving a nightclub. I remember.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know
He
that's a
ran
name.
But he
you know,
won.
I
He
hear
won
all
the
these
civil
names.
case, right? He won
It
the civil
was
case.
$6 million.
Okay.
$6 million. But these people, his parents,
Yeah.
have started a fund with that $6 million and
Awesome.
other funds that they get in
Awesome.
to support local sports programs. You talk about sports
Yeah.
earlier.
Sure.
Me and Peter talked about sports.
Yeah.
Most of our close friends, my close friends anyway, came from football.
Sure.
Came from basketball,
sure,
came from
sure.
track, that are white, right? Those people that, you know, some of which I'm disappointed in right now.
But
Because
how
of
come
their
they go
lack
the
of-
other
lack
way?
of-
How come they get more conservative and more right wing?
I don't know,
But
man.
what happens to that 18-year-old man
It's the
in the locker room who you really don't see color?
It's the same.
I told
it's
you
the same
earlier,
thing.
Mike.
What?
I told you earlier. You weren't listening. When I gave you that military
Listen, I got 3 fucking big mouths. How many big guys can I listen to at once? Paulo, fuck off already. What do you mean, listen? I can barely, you're on my whole fucking screen. I cannot listen to you.
Mike, you're the blackest person on the screen right now.
Yeah, I know. I've been told that before, too.
No, Mike,
But-
Mike,
but-
it's they get to it like I was going to tell you guys what happened with my children themselves.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about educating, it don't matter when you come from privilege. My daughters went to private schools. It don't matter. The hell they. If you
Look at what Tabor Academy's going through right
Right
now.
now.
They're getting their balls busted big time.
If you go to Instagram right now and you go to Black At and you look, all these private schools will stop popping up where your nephew goes through and all that, and you'll see what life and some of these people that posted on there, they went to these schools.
Yeah,
you know-
but my nephew and Noah said that the ones from Tabor were full of shit.
Exactly, Mike.
You know what I mean? They did.
point I
They
was
said that they
getting
were
to-
full of shit. I don't know.
Mike, all lives matter to them.
Let me yeah.
But when they see a black man as 3/5,
Sure.
you don't have a full life. So I don't have to fully respect you.
Let me
Can I
explain.
say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I say one thing? As I don't know about any of you guys here, but I'm probably the only one in here that has my children are mixed.
Sure.
Everything. My daughters,
Yeah.
pretty much they look white.
Yeah.
Okay. All lives matter until that one person brings a African American to their house.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
It's all fun and games till your daughter starts dating a black guy.
Or
Yeah,
wants to
we got
marry
it,
a
we got it,
black guy, or vice versa.
Well, it works both ways. And let me tell you something. No, Portuguese people discriminate each other from what village they're from. In the Azores, you know that. You know it.
So Cape Verdeans, color your skin. in
and
Cape
black
Verdean,
people,
you know?
black people judge people on the color of their skin as well.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. Hey, listen to me. It's been great. We got to go. You coming back or what?
Yeah. I'm
you-
going on vacation. But
What?
Pete might be able to reach me. You might be able
You
to
have
get me.
you have an open invitation. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna send the driver to go get you in a week
Are
or
you
two.
are you going on vacation? You going back to New Bedford, or you hanging out in the state?
Yeah, I'm going to be in the state.
I'll
You know,
pick you up.
Yeah.
my boy,
How about that?
You know that.
I'll pick you up and Dwayne DeRace.
Hey,
Yeah.
you were great.
Thanks, brother.
You were great. You were great.
it.
Let me
Love
tell you
all
something.
y'all.
Let me tell you something. There are no conversations like this that are going to go perfectly, okay? Because, but at least we're having the balls to have them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
And we didn't
Next time
rehearse
anybody
this.
asks, tell them you're Jamaican.
Yeah, and we didn't rehearse this. This is all off the cuff.
Yeah, for you
This
guys,
is all
yeah.
coming
I
from.
did a little bit. I try to have 2.5 pages of notes and about 3 hours under my belt, absorbing different things
Right.
as we do this. But it was great. Listen, love one another, and remember this: this
Definitely.
country is much closer to its peril from rotting at its core due to racism than any bomb from China, from Putin, from some Muslim terrorist cell, or some whack job in North Korea is. Believe it. Love one another. I'm out. Peace.
Wait a minute.
Podcast City.
Get on it. on it.